Zelensky is an accomplished actor and a brilliant president. Volodymyr Zelensky's journey from a television comedian to a wartime global icon is one of the most extraordinary chapters in modern political history. His leadership has fundamentally transformed Ukraine from a nation historically overshadowed by Russian influence into a fiercely independent, self-reliant state. Despite facing political subversion, economic blockades, and a full-scale military invasion by a global superpower, Zelensky's strategic resolve has enabled Ukraine to defy early catastrophic predictions, turn the tide of the war, and deliver devastating blows to Russia's geopolitical ambitions. From television screen to the presidency. Before his entry into politics, Zelensky was best known as an actor, comedian, and producer. Ironically, his most famous role was in the satirical television series Servant of the People, where he played a high school history teacher who unexpectedly becomes the president of Ukraine after a video of his anti-corruption rant goes viral. In 2019, Lev imitated art. Driven by widespread public frustration with systemic corruption, economic stagnation, and the entrenched political elite, Zelensky launched a real-world presidential campaign aimed after his TV show. His campaign relied heavily on social media, bypassing traditional media channels to connect directly with the electorate. He promised to fight corruption, bridge the gap between Russian-speaking and Ukrainian-speaking citizens, and find a peaceful resolution to the conflict in eastern Ukraine, which had been simmering since Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014. Critics initially dismissed him as a populist lightweight with no administrative experience, fearing he would be easily manipulated by oligarchs or outmaneuvered by Moscow. However, the Ukrainian public voted overwhelmingly for change, electing him with a historic 73% of the vote. In 2019, Ukraine officially enshrined its strategic goal of joining NATO into its constitution. Following the escalation of geopolitical conflicts, the country accelerated this process by formally submitting its application for NATO membership in September 2022, underscoring its commitment to Euro-Atlantic integration and collective security, breaking the chains of dependence. Upon taking office, Zelensky faced the monumental task of steering a country that had long struggled under the heavy hand of Russian interference. For decades, the Kremlin viewed Ukraine not as a sovereign neighbor, but as a critical piece of its sphere of influence. Russia used economic leverage, energy blackmail through natural gas supplies, cyber warfare, and political subversion to keep Ukraine dependent and weak. Zelensky chose a definitive path toward true sovereignty. He systematically worked to decouple Ukraine from Russian networks, strengthening institutional anti-corruption frameworks and aggressively pursuing integration with the European Union and NATO. He understood that national security was tied directly to economic and energy independence. Ukraine diversified its energy imports, upgraded its cyber defenses, and modernized its military according to Western standards. These reforms deeply angered Moscow, which saw a democratic, self-governing Ukraine as a direct threat to its authoritarian model. The crucible of invasion, from deficit to defiance. The ultimate test of Zelensky's leadership arrived on February 24, 2022, when Russia launched a massive, multi-pronged invasion of Ukraine, aiming to capture Kyiv, depose the government, and erase the country from the map. In the opening hours of the assault, global intelligence agencies predicted that Ukraine would fall within days. Western governments offered to evacuate Zelensky, fearing his imminent assassination or capture. It was at this critical juncture that Zelensky cemented his legacy, famously refusing the offers with the defiant words, "The fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride." Remaining in the heart of Kiev as Russian elite troops advanced on the capital, Zelensky used his smartphone to broadcast raw, unfiltered videos to the nation, proving that the leadership had not fled. This act of profound personal courage galvanized the Ukrainian population and prevented widespread panic. His daily addresses became a vital anchor for national morale, transforming his civilian attire green military fatigues into a global symbol of resistance. Under his command, the Ukrainian armed forces, bolstered by a mobilized citizenry, executed a brilliant defense of Kiev, exploiting Russian logistical vulnerabilities and forcing the invaders into a humiliating retreat from northern Ukraine, flipping the script and inflicting strategic defeats. As the war progressed, Zelensky successfully shifted Ukraine's posture from desperate survival to highly calculated counteroffensives. Understanding that Ukraine could not defeat Russia through sheer numbers alone, he became a tireless global diplomat, addressing parliaments around the world to secure advanced Western weaponry, intelligence sharing, and unprecedented financial aid. This international coalition provided Ukraine with the technological edge necessary to level the playing field against a much larger adversary. The results of this strategic pivot altered the course of the conflict. In late 2022, Ukrainian forces executed stunning counteroffensives in the Kharkiv and Kherson regions, liberating thousands of square kilometers of occupied territory and shattering the myth of Russian military invincibility. Zelensky's strategy focused heavily on asymmetric warfare. Lacking a conventional navy, Ukraine utilized domestically produced sea drones and Western-supplied missiles to systematically dismantle Russia's Black Sea Fleet, forcing Russian warships to retreat from Crimea and successfully reopening vital maritime grain corridors to global markets. Furthermore, Ukraine took the fight directly into Russian territory. Through precise drone strikes on oil refineries, ammunition depots, and military airfields deep inside Russia, Zelensky's forces disrupted the Kremlin's war machine and brought the economic costs of the conflict home to the Russian public. The unprecedented Ukrainian incursions into Russian border regions, such as Kursk, completely inverted the dynamics of the war, exposing severe vulnerabilities in Russia's domestic defense and dealing a psychological blow to the Kremlin's leadership. The blueprint of a sovereign, self-reliant nation. Beyond the immediate tactical successes on the battlefield, Zelensky's greatest achievement has been the fundamental reinvention of Ukrainian identity and statehood. Under his stewardship, Ukraine has transitioned from a nation defined by its vulnerabilities into a highly capable, self-actualized state. The war accelerated Ukraine's integration into the European community, culminating in the historic opening of EU accession negotiations. Ukraine's military is now recognized as one of the most battle-hardened, innovative, and technologically advanced forces in the world, serving as the de facto shield protecting democratic Europe. Domestically, the conflict fostered a profound sense of national unity that transcended regional, linguistic, and political divisions. The dependence on Russian cultural, economic, and political structures has been permanently severed. Ukraine's tech sector has innovated under fire, developing world-class battlefield management systems and drone technologies that have redefined modern warfare. Zelensky did not merely defend Ukraine. He decoupled it entirely from a toxic post-Soviet orbit, ensuring that the country's future will be written exclusively by its own people. Conclusion: Volodymyr Zelensky's journey from a comedian mimicking power to a leader exercising it during his nation's darkest hour is a testament to the power of human courage and visionary leadership. When confronted with an existential threat designed to erase his country, he chose defiance over capitulation, unity over division, and strategic innovation over conventional defeat. By standing firm, he allowed Ukraine to rewrite its destiny, transforming a state once paralyzed by Russian interference into an independent, self-reliant powerhouse capable of inflicting crippling blows on an empire. Zelensky's legacy is defined by this extraordinary realization. He took a nation that the world expected to break, and under his command, it broke the advance of its oppressor.
Author I Am a U.S. Soldier vlog. Thanks for watching.